Alleluia. Please be seated. What a thing we are doing. 3 communities, 1 font. St. Luke's, St. Thomas, St. Margaret's, 3 parishes with 3 views of history, 3 ways of being faithful, and just 1 water. 1 fire, 1 risen Lord. I am grateful to be with you. You might not realize this, but it took Jesus about 1,000 years to die. Images of his corpse did not appear in churches until like the 10th century. 1,000 years. So why not? There were these 2 seminary professors, and they went on a trip in the 2000s, a long Mediterranean journey to look for the dead Jesus. And they went to Roman catacombs, and they explored Turkish neighborhoods, and they examined the earliest Christian art, painted very delicately on plaster walls and in caves and chiseled in marble. In these dim lit caves, they found Abraham and Isaac. They found Jonah and sea monsters. They found Daniel and Ezekiel. They even found Jesus as a little child and Jesus raising Lazarus. And most importantly, they found Jesus as a shepherd, always with a sheep on his shoulders. But despite all their findings, they never found a dead Jesus. Not one. They ended up in Ravenna, Italy, in this beautiful 5th century basilica in the old part of town, where all the aisles were lined with these beautiful little paintings, 11 on each side. And you had to get real close to see them. And there on one side, all the life of Jesus, and on the other side, the story leading from the Last Supper. And you could count 1, 2, 3. You got to panel number 10, and there's a story we know. It's Simon of Cyrene with the cross and carrying it for Jesus. That's 10. Number 11, no Jesus on 11. They took their scholarly minds. They were like, what's going on? There's no Jesus on the cross, no Golgotha, no last words, no blood. Instead, it was just a gigantic angel. And on each side were these 2 women. They looked like they were getting about to get the Spirit. They were kind of moving. They had little lines. And you had to get really close and maybe move a little to see them. Where was the Jesus? And one of the professors said, I think the clue is in the angel. Because what does the angel say? I know you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here. It's like a puzzle. And then the next and last little painting was Jesus risen, having meals with his friends, visiting, doing all the things that a risen Jesus does, but there never was a crucifixion. No cross. No notes of death anywhere, not in that church, not in the surrounding villages or towns. The only Christ those ancient people saw was an incarnated one, a risen one, a loving, baptismal, defeating death one. Why are we looking for Jesus amongst the dead when the crucifixion, being absent, was enough in the 5th century? What we do look for and have here in our times, and what they knew in Ravenna, was the absent Jesus points to something else. It points to baptism for them. All the paintings and portals were, as they said, doorways into paradise. The ritual of getting water poured on your head opens up the gates of heaven. And Christians have been doing it ever since. We've been dunking people in lakes like they did in the country, dropping little water, sprinkling them from shells, blessing them with little bottles from the Jordan, because that's the holy river where all of creation flows. The beginning of the world, we think, accessed through those drops of water. And one of the early bishops who oversaw the painting of those ancient little frescoes he was really into baptism. So much so, it became his kind of thing. But the emperor, the Roman emperor at the time, would punish him and his church because of their baptisms. They taxed them every time they felt like living their baptism vows and feeding the hungry was a disruption. They tried to imprison them for helping baptized people get well with medical care. They tried to run them out of town because they said baptized people should provide housing and care for all those who are without. Their baptism was a test for them. That drink of water provided them the nourage and the courage and the knowledge to keep on keeping on in hard times. It would renew their hearts of stone and give them hearts of flesh. And this Holy Week Saturday night, in the nighttime, in ancient times, men and women and children, they'd sing songs like we sang. They'd put on their nice white robes and chant and gather around the baptismal font. They'd light a bonfire, and then they'd wait. The immersion, the feast, and when that first light of Easter came, they waited for this blessing. Everything belongs to God. Everything belongs to God. Everything of beauty, of wisdom, of justice belongs to God. Alleluia, glory, now and forever. It was all they waited for, all their baptism was pointing towards, and all that their souls could hold. There is something about being baptized that gets you ready for the door to paradise. I know the feeling. I was conditionally baptized right there at that font on an Easter Vigil. It's a long story. My parents were traveling. There was a Roman Catholic priest with holy water in his pockets. Something happened in a parking lot. Nevertheless, I might have been baptized twice, but I remember the feeling the second time. The conditional anticipation, the pouring of the water, the about to be, the becoming, the excitement that something holy was coming very near, and you will be sealed and marked and joined with Christ forever. And tonight we have two brave people who walked through the waters, who heard that invitation, that ancient one from that ancient bishop who was crazy about baptisms. It will change you forever. It will change you because when we remember our baptism, we remember that that invitation is bigger. It's bigger than this moment. Thankfully, it's bigger than this government or administration. It's bigger than this protest or the next protest. Our baptismal invitation is bigger than this war, and it's bigger than the last one. It's bigger than the names of those we've lost and the places we'll never get to. It is bigger than the ways we've failed and the ways others have failed us. But that's the thing about baptism. It is truly wild because it's an invitation to death. Our chance to die, our chance to be hangers-oners to the coattails of Jesus rising from the dead. Our chance to be with the one that goes busting out of graves. I think that's all good for us. But I gotta let you know, when we leave here, the rest of the world might think you're a little crazy. It's very nice. You like to go to church. It's very sweet. But perhaps something you keep to yourself. You do not mention it on your LinkedIn profile. Perhaps it is not a selling point that gets you DMs on Instagram, but it is a nice little niche thing we do. The larger world has something to say about the weirdness of our insistence that we die with Jesus. Because it's not smart. It doesn't help to pretend like everything won't end. That your job might not end, that there might not be enough money for housing, that there might be always a struggle to feed people through Charlie's Place, or that the world has moved on from woke and diversity and acceptance, and that there's a whole generation of alphas who might never learn to love a hardback book, and that newspapers are over, and that there's a whole cultural milieu that says joining churches is done. Things are dying. That's what smart people say. So why do we keep it on? by all means. Why this vigil persistence? I wonder if it's because in the gospel stories we hear something a little different. A reminder that says, get ready. You don't know the half of it. The opposite of death is what you are in store for. And it is a wild ride. The opposite of the inevitable, the opposite of death is this wake-up call, this ride. It is kind of like the rodeo. So I want to propose one last image, maybe to carry in your heart as we leave here to celebrate Easter. Along with all the beautiful frescoes in Italy and Turkey and the ancient handwritten carvings, I want to propose a picture of the blessed Arizona State Gay Rodeo. Now, I want to let you know that I have it on good authority that the gay rodeo is pretty much just like a regular rodeo. It still smells and there's a lot of dust and there's animals running around, there's horses and cows. And all rodeos have sheep. I just learned this. Sheep. In rodeo language, they call them muttons. And they're fuzzy and they go bad and they jump around, just like in the Bible. But the thing is, at rodeos, while cowboys and cowgirls and folks ride horses and cows, there are very spiritual people who ride sheep. They wrangle them, they hop on them. You have to be pretty small to ride a sheep. So the people who bust or ride muttons tend to be about this high. They tend to be in elementary school. The mutton busters, they are third graders and fourth graders and fifth graders. They're little boys and girls who apparently are around animals all the time, who put on baseball helmets and hop around on one foot, waiting to be picked to ride a mutton. And the line opens up, and all the little people get in the row, and some big cow person picks them up by their armpits, holds them in the air, and drops them on the other side of a 7-foot fence. It might as well be a cave. It might as well be a dark den of mutton pen. Now, the goal is for this elementary school kid to climb on a sheep, hold on, and ride that sheep like it's a horse. And then, all of a sudden, there's a boom. There's an earthquake clattering sound. The fence goes up, and a riderless sheep jumps out, hopping and leaping again and again. Child after child at the Arizona State Gay Rodeo was picked up by their armpits, dropped over the fence, and boom, maybe a step or two, but usually there's a kid spitting out dust, but laughing. This is apparently the way this happens with mutton busting. Until I saw this. There was one really brave little girl. She had braids under her baseball hat. I don't remember what her exact name is, but I feel like it should be Mary. Mary was picked up by her armpits, hung over the fence, dropped down into this cave of darkness that was the mutton pen, and then boom! The fence shattered and rollicked, and there came a sheep, but with a kid on it. So here's the thing that Mary knew that none of the other kids figured out. Mary was turned around backwards. Mary had her sights on something, the behind. Literally it was behind, because mostly her face was pressed into the sheep butt. She was clinging for dear life, and that sheep went bounding and leaping and joined its other version of paradise with the other sheep, clung together in a clump across the pen. Mary hung on so long that the cow folks had to wade into the sheep pile and pull her off. She hit the dust. She popped up. She waved her hands, and I could feel she was saying, I am still here. I could feel her little elementary school cowgirl voice saying, hallelujah. She was holding on and holding on into something new. This is the way I think great tales of earthquakes and fires and floods and the illogical wild God show up. That sometimes you gotta ride the sheep backwards. We hold on to the tales of our faith. We took the long walk together, remember the stories of Isaac, the Hanani of Abraham, the tales of Ezekiel and the dry bones, the tales of Miriam with her tambourine. Because you got to ask, who got the Israelites to cross the dry seabed? It was a woman who was like Moses saying, come on, get ready for a wild ride while Moses keeps the water at bay. We keep telling ourselves the story of folks who are just crazy enough to want to follow God in every circumstance. We sang the song of the shepherds who sang a little song at Jesus' cradle bed, Gloria in excelsis Deo. We sing that song and remember over and over again that we are still that community that not only loves baptism, that not only is a little crazy, but is willing to follow and let God lead us anywhere. Like Mary, like the prophets, like the apostles, we are ready. And if you are brave, you might take a wild ride that will let you see the light of Easter. There is an opposite to a world that says, just give up, everything's inevitable, that it's logical, that we will lose, that a world of greed and exclusion will win. But it's a wild ride. It's not easy. And that insane courage in the face of an earthquake or a gigantic angel or a fire or a flood can only come when one realizes that you're following the risen God. A Jesus crazy enough to bust out of a grave. A Jesus who says your GPS is set differently. Your middle name is no longer give up or strange or has been, but it is friend of Jesus. We can hear the angels say, and we have an answer ready. Are you looking for the living amongst the dead? When in fact, we are looking for the living, and we've seen it in the new fire, and in the water of baptism, and in the prayers and the chants, and all the community calling us home. That there is a risen God who enables us never to be shaken by earthquakes or to fall down dead in fear, but instead to know that the cosmic God is holding us and calling us and will pick us up again and again and bust us out of tombs and graves. Because the resurrection for us is not the end. It is the beginning of our story. The resurrection for us is not our end. It is just our start. And as a good start, from now on, when we hear the beginning, Christ is risen, may we all say, Alleluia. Christ is risen. Hallelujah. Christ is risen. Hallelujah.